Swamp ate up the bad man and set the sweet child free. Swamp ate up the bad man and set the sweet child free. Swamp ate up the bad man and set the sweet child free. Swamp ate up the bad man and set the sweet child free. Don't go poking in the Okefenokee unless you love your maker. There ain't no joking in the Okefenokee where there's more creatures by the acre. Oh, the Okefenokee is the king of the swamps, and you can't take it for granted. When the sun goes down, it's creature town, and the gators are gigantic. Nest City Slick had just robbed a bank to make a dope deal down in Florida. Along with him was sweet little Kim he'd kidnapped as a hostage. She was young and bright, innocent, and Slick's mind was full of garbage. He was only thinking.
You didn't know there were cows on your record, Daniel. Daniel Antopolsky is with us, Meredith Ochs and Chris T.
That's true. There's no
cows in the swamp. That's true.
Man, I remember driving through the Okefenokee at like 3 o'clock in the morning when I was a kid, and it was the scariest thing I'd ever seen.
You didn't get all the way through.
Oh man, no, I know when we were going to Florida on vacation, and that's how
you know what you're talking about.
Went into the state.
You could only go on the outskirts,
right?
Danielle
but even so, you could peer into the swamp and see like little shacks back there, and I always wondered who those people were.
Nobody's back there.
Nobody.
There's nobody back in the Okefenokee.
You know, they found in the 30s they were trying to make a railroad and back in their lumber and the swamp ate it. They couldn't go on. They found a house. They found a book in there, and this land was dedicated by the King of England to this lord or something, of this wonderful handwriting and in fantastic signature, the stamp of the king and all. And in every generation, it got down and got down and got down, the simpler and more scribble. And by the last night, it was just the last time it was given over to the guy, and just he could only mark an X. So
you grew up in Augusta,
Georgia.
Augusta, Georgia. So
way down there.
And right. you're Jewish. Your family's Jewish.
Right. My father was born in New York. Then my grandfather, both sides of my grandparents, came over in about 1898, 1997. My father was born in New York on Delancey Street. He said he lived there till he went to even a yeshiva or whatever, until in a Jewish school. But he said he never saw, and his father died. They moved down south to a little town in Waynesboro, Georgia. My father said this was it. He never saw a tree until he moved down south.
How did he get from Delancey Street to?
He had a cousin. And so they right away they had some chickens, and they had a cow, and they had a little shack by the railroad track. And they just, whatever it was, my father became, they just loved nature, fell in love with forests, and fell in love with gardening. And his family, they started a hardware business in Augusta, and they all did was go fishing and grow food. And
how does that happen? How do they get into the hardware business?
Because my father, he was the very expert. He loved farmers, and we had 3 or 4 acres right in our yard, and he had a tractor, and we had a garden. But he became the real authority in that area for animal-drawn plowing equipment for tractors.
Wow.
And when tractors, and he loved those kind of people.
That's an unusual occupation for a Jewish boy.
Well, no, we had a hardware store. And they bought surplus after World War II. Right. We had fish and tackle. We had every kind of thing. My other relatives, they also, Schmatas, also clothes.
Right, rag trade.
That's right.
They call it the rag trade.
But I got right. But I was a little different, and me and my brothers, we all loved to live in the country. And not that I'm.
Did you hang out at the hardware store? By the way,
you listened to the customers, and
bootleggers. We sold the things to make stills, whiskey, make whiskey stills, and copper sheets, and
people come in for copper tubing. You know what they're up to.
Copper tube and sheet copper, and whiskey and kegs and wooden kegs and half-gallon fruit jars.
Did anyone ever try to pay your dad with moonshine?
No, but I knew quite. I had
my
little share of it.
Yeah, I'm sure they brought some of the largesse to the store.
Was I had a mix kind of. My relatives we were just downtown there. All the World War II veterans came in, and my uncles all were World War II veterans. It was a different mentality, and there were a lot of great people and funny people and all kinds of people and that was
a store like that in a little town becomes a social hub, right? Where people go to talk and to tell stories. So it did a lot of, as a kid, you're hearing all this stuff, and it definitely worked its way into your music.
Well, yeah. I mean, I saw that there were people that were farmers, and people that come in, and the watermelon man. He'd come in with the watermelons. We'd get watermelons. I'd sit on the back of the back of the store with people. We would sit and eat the watermelon, and then draw a circle, see who could spit and get the seed in the circle. And I mean, just real all kind of people that were very, of course, all kinds of just great people, and that was the kind of business that wasn't sophisticated at all. And people came in that were hobbyists. We had all kind of pocket knives.
Did your dad or your family encounter any anti-Semitism, or were they fairly open in Augusta?
Well, Augusta has never been the place. It's Augusta, Georgia, and it's got a lot of nice people now, and it's had its share of, people. I'll tell you, two of the most important people in my life were Afro-Americans, and I was raised by, I call her Franny. When I speak of her, he brings the crap. And she was so wonderful to me. And
why? Do you still feel it after all this time?
See, my mother died when I was so little, and she had Parkinson's. She was so sick for 8 years and couldn't speak, and Frances took care of me. And there were people in the store that I love that worked for us. And I mean, I judged people, my favorite people. I didn't care who they were, if they would have been purple or green. You just don't care. I have a song. I mean, I live in France now. There's in Bordeaux, they say it's the most romantic bridge in France, in Bordeaux. Romantic? I've never seen a romance. People don't speak. You don't speak. And so
you've gone from moonshine to wine. I love that.
Yeah, I know. But I thought about it. I said, we have all these kind of divisions today. And I said, if you'd be walking on the street with your dog or a little, your granddaughter, your daughter, and all that, and you think you judge them by anything, whether they're green, blue, whatever color, doesn't matter, fat, skinny, you say, I don't think I like that person if you just go back externals. If you're crossing the street and you turn your head the other way, your grandchild, your little dog starts to get near the road and almost a truck comes over, and somebody, whoever they come that you didn't think was so marvelous maybe, comes and saves that child, you're going to hug them, you're going to love them, you aren't going to care anything about them. That's what you love. You won't. That's what we people need to think, that other human beings are that way. That's we all want to. We should look at other people and give everyone the chance like that.
Well, you're living in France now, but you must be aware of what's happening politically in this country, where you have one person who is advocating that we are all sort of interrelated and what we do affects one another, and another is we're all individuals, and that's the way it is. You're responsible for you. I'm responsible for me.
I don't even touch that one with a 10-foot pole.
Well, I haven't played another song.
No, but yeah, and before you do, Daniel, I just want to.
Okay.
Yeah, before you do, I just want to ask, because what I was trying to get at was, I understand your attitude towards other people, but did the community of Augusta accept your family and your dad? Were they fairly open to you?
The South has been Jewish families in the South. It might not be so well known up here, but everyone's done. People have done relatively well. I know my father said when he was here in New York, he didn't have anything. Was so poor. All they had was a soup on every day, and had a meat bone in the soup on the Sabbath. He was so hungry all the time. Mm-hmm. So I mean, when they came down south, there's this and that. No place is perfect. Whatever. I mean, everyone's felt. Everyone feels sometime that you're not just like other people, and you wish you could be something different. But I tell you, friends, we are what we are. And we have to make the best of it, and we have to look for the good in others. I just don't know the answer to. You're getting a little over my head on some of those things.
There are big Jewish communities in the South and in southern cities, and I mean, there have been since Jews have been coming here and settling, because we were running away from places where we were being killed. So, but people up north don't realize that there is a lot of Judaism in the South, and always has been.
Well, whatever it is, there's isms everywhere, and the thing about the isms, the right thing to do with isms is make the isms be understand all the other isms, and not so.
Everybody should understand each other's isms.
But I mean, my way of interpreting, I came here and I wanted to say, everybody, you see my background, so I can say howdy, shalom, and bonjour. It's all the same.
Well, how did your faith and growing up in a spiritual household affect your kind of spiritual quest?
Was anyone a cantor?
No, my father was just the same. He loved to read history. He loved to grow gardens, and he had a simple kind of faith. And he was a good, honest person. And he went through that. It was a time when people it was a thing. Try to be honest and try to be good. And I mean, they told me to be good to customer. You try to say, yeah, yes, sir, no, sir. You try to be nice to everybody. And that was just a store. I grew up in and I had different kind of experiences too. And I went to high school. My 50th high school reunion is coming up in October.
Are you going?
I don't know.
You should go. You could play. Why don't you play a song for us now? Because we'd love to hear another one from Daniel Antopolsky. You can find him online at danielantopolsky.com.
Right. Thank you. Miss Tennessee whiskey married the Georgia pine. They had little white lightnings and red hot moonshines. Kentucky bourbon runs down the hill. There's a good Scotch whiskey smoking in the still. Oh, Irish whiskey, red Bordeaux wine. All the drinks I mentioned have been good friends of mine. And if you'd come back, I'd sing a little toast. Good Lord, I love good liquor, but I love you the most. You smoke Toochie in the morning, gallivanted all night. Swallowed red and blues and most everything inside. Cactus in the canyon, mushrooms in the fall. And now that I look back, that didn't mean much at all. And now that I look back, that didn't mean much at all. Oh, Irish whiskey, red Bordeaux wine. All the drinks I mentioned have been good friends of mine. If you had come back, I'd drink a little toast. Good Lord, I love good liquor, but I love you the most. With a little bit of hope and faith, just gotta believe. There's no good hiding something up my sleeve. The only answer that I can find, your love is better than whiskey, better than wine. Oh yeah, your love is better than whiskey, better than wine. Irish whiskey, red Bordeaux wine. All the drinks I've mentioned been good friends of mine. And if you'd come back, I'd drink a little toast. Good Lord, I love good liquor, but I love you the most. And if you'd come back, I'd drink a little toast. Good Lord, good Lord, good Lord. I love good liquor, but I love you. I love you. I love you, child. I love you. Love you the most.
Daniel Antopolsky.
Nice.
Playing live.
Thank you for that.
Acoustic Outlaw Volume 1 and 2 is out now. Sheriff of Mars will be hopefully completed later on this year, the film about your life. Can you hang out with us a little bit more? We'll come back. We'll talk about the movie and recording and some other stuff.
And how you chased the French girl all the way to France. Got to hear that story, too.
That's just what I did.
When we return.
Swamp ate up the bad man and set the sweet child free. Swamp ate up the bad man.